Last Sunday, we heard the story in Luke's gospel in which a person approached Jesus saying, "Lord, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus gently warned him of the challenge and the cost to follow. In today's passage, we learn about some who did follow, especially we learn the names of some of the women who were among Jesus' faithful followers. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Susanna, and many others, along with the 12 disciples, were with him, Luke tells us. This passage, and then the presence of the women on Good Friday and Easter morning, are all that we know about them. Luke tells us that Jesus had healed each one in some way, and now they traveled with him and supported him from their resources. What a treasure Luke gives us. Knowing this, we can now see these women there the rest of the way through Jesus's ministry. They were a part of his faithful group as he traveled and taught, even though the texts are often silent about them. Stopping in a village that day, a large crowd began to gather. And Jesus, as was his style, began to speak to them in a parable, a story that could break down defenses and sneak ideas through preconceptions. We'll listen to a story when we won't listen to a lecture. Jesus told them a story about a sower who went out to sow a field. Some seeds fell on the hardened path where they were trampled and eaten by birds, exposed as they were. Some seeds fell on rocks where they dried up without any moisture or nutrients. Some fell into a thorny, weedy area, and they, even though they grew, were choked by all of these other plants. But some seed fell into soft, loamy soil, and it grew more than you could believe. In Matthew's and Mark's Gospels, we find a slightly different version than here in Luke. Luke uniquely ends in this way. But as for that, in the good soil, these are the ones who, when they hear the word, hold it fast in an honest and good heart and bear fruit with endurance. We often read this parable and ask, what kind of soil am I? When I receive God's love, does it grow in me? But perhaps another question to ask, a crucial question, the question I'd like us to ask today is, what kind of gardener am I? What kind of gardeners are we? I'll admit that I am not known for my gardening, or if I am known for it, it's not the way a person wants to be known for things. Don't look at the plant in my office. But once, when we lived in Ohio, we had an amazing garden, a luscious garden. We had okra and potatoes and green beans and tomatoes. We ended up with fresh vegetables all summer, more than we could eat. So shelves full of canned tomatoes to get us through the winter. So then, a few years later, I thought I was a good gardener after that, you know. So we moved to Florida, back to my hometown, and I thought, well, this is a no-brainer, right? In Florida, you've got sun, you've got afternoon rains, so surely my garden will grow here too. I planted it the same way I did in Ohio, but with a very lackluster result. Not sure if I got anything out of that. I'd never thought much about this except to say this proves I don't have green thumbs. Until a few weeks ago, I asked a landscaper about whether it was possible to plant vegetables here in the church yard. And she said that it would require raised beds because you have to be careful about the quality of the soil. When I planted that garden in Florida, I wasn't considering the quality of the soil. I didn't consider it in Ohio either, but I got lucky, right? So imagine with me these two vastly different ways of gardening. There are the people like me who just drop some seeds in and hope for the best. And there are the kind of gardeners who first tend the soil. So when we think about our call to offer people God's love, those seeds the sower was throwing, we can ask ourselves, are we the kind of gardeners who keep throwing our seeds and just hoping for the best? Or are we the kind who take the time to tend the soil? Some people have been trampled down hard, like the path they have been walked on, stomped on, driven over, and that hurt is a cover that nothing careless can penetrate. Some people are like those rocky places, and they are open to messages of love and belonging and grace, but then nothing in their environment corroborates those messages. Nothing nourishes those little plants of hope. And some people have circumstances in their lives, those thorns and weeds that are invasive. And they grow so exponentially, as weeds do, that no matter what those people do, no matter how hard they try, their efforts to flourish feel overwhelmed and suffocated. So what if, as people who want to live like Jesus did, and as a church, we thought of ourselves as soil tenders? If we help address those overwhelming circumstances, if we patiently unearth what's under the battered soil, if we offer nourishment and encouragement to people who are spread too thin. I spent some time this week researching this question, the gardening question, of how careful gardeners prepare their soil faithfully before they ever begin to plant. And here is what I read from a source called Epic Gardening. I'm going to read a little bit of it to you because I think we can hear it with our double ears as we consider our work with people. As they describe the process, I hear two main steps in plain speech. Loosen up that hard crust, and once it's loose, put good stuff in it and mix it around very, very well. They call that amending the soil. If you're a gardener, you would have known that, but not me. So this is what they write. Gardening as a whole requires a good deal of work and effort. Planting, pruning, watering, and fertilizing can be pleasant and relaxing, but digging giant holes, not so much. The process of amending hard soil is tedious and physically taxing. But if we want our plants to have strong, healthy roots, it is a process we can't neglect. Break up the top layer as best you can. The looser, the better. I love thinking about this as church work. There really is no short-term workaround for this. And whatever amendments, whatever good stuff you choose, mix them in well. Pour your amending materials on top of the broken up soil. Try to get the amendments mixed in as far down as possible. And this This is for you. This is my absolute favorite part. If you happen upon an earthworm, some of you are earthworms, this is the jackpot of soil improvement. Pick that worm up and put him to work, keeping the soil loose. Beloved ones, can we hear Jesus's call to us in his story about the soil? People, like soil, reflect their nurture and their treatment. We need good stuff to be poured into us and mixed in. And sometimes there is painstaking healing work that needs to happen to repair the hurt, even before the good stuff can reach us. When we meet people who are trampled until they have a hard crust on their surface, when we meet people who are choked and tangled by any number of demands and obstacles, or people who are malnourished of hope, we are asked to be soil tenders. Jesus invites us, his disciples, to care for people in this way, simply, patiently, genuinely, over time. Amen.